The council chamber stretched so far in every direction that the human eye could barely see where it ended. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood on a circular platform that floated in the center of the massive space. Suspended by technology he did not fully understand. Around him, rising in tiers that climbed toward a ceiling lost in shadow, sat representatives from 700 different worlds. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some were made of light or crystal or things that had no name in human language. They all stared down at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. Webb kept his hands clasped behind his back and his face calm. He wore a simple black suit, nothing fancy, nothing that would make him stand out. But he stood out anyway. In a chamber filled with beings who wore elaborate robes or gleaming armor or bodies that defied description, the human looked almost painfully ordinary. The murmuring that filled the chamber sounded like wind through a forest. If that forest was made of 1,000 different voices speaking 1,000 different languages, translation devices worn by each representative converted the sounds into something comprehensible. But the underlying noise remained, a constant reminder of just how many civilizations had gathered to pass. Judgment today. High Arbiter Veltroth rose from his seat at the center of the highest tier. His body was made of living crystal that caught the ambient light and threw it back in dancing patterns across the walls. When he spoke, his voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Ambassador Webb of Earth, humanity stands accused of the most severe crime against galactic law in 300 years. You destroyed the Dravik military fleet. 47,000 souls erased in 18 minutes. How do you answer this charge? Webb did not flinch. He did not look away. He simply stood there, meeting the Arbiter's gaze with steady gray eyes that held no trace of fear or regret. I answered that Earth acted in self-defense, Webb said. His voice was quiet, but it carried easily through the vast space. The Dravik fired first. The chamber erupted. 700 voices rose at once, some shouting in anger, others in disbelief. The sound was overwhelming, like standing in the middle of a storm. Veltroth raised one crystalline hand and silence fell instantly. The Dravik were a council member species. They were protected by our laws. They were conducting a legal mining operation in the Kepler 442 system when your forces attack them without warning or mercy. We have reviewed the evidence. We have examined the wreckage. What we found suggests that Earth possesses weapons technology that should not exist. Webb allowed himself the smallest hint of a smile. Should not exist according to whose understanding? According to the laws of physics as we know them, interjected Counselor Vex, a being that resembled a floating mass of glowing tentacles. The Dravik fleet carried shields rated Class 7. Their armor was forged from neutronium composite. These defenses have withstood attacks from entire battle groups, yet your vessels cut through them like they were paper. Explain how this is possible. I could explain, Webb said slowly, but I do not think that is what troubles you. What troubles you is not how we did it. What troubles you is that we did it at all. Grand Admiral Court of the Thanix Hegemony leaned forward in his seat. He was 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and armor covered in battle scars. His species controlled more territory than any other in the Council, and his military was legendary. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. You are correct, human. What troubles us is that a species which joined this council only 32 years ago has demonstrated its capability to destroy one of our established military powers in less time than it takes to eat a meal. What troubles us is that we did not see this coming. What troubles us is wondering what else you are hiding. Webb nodded as if Court had just confirmed something he already knew. Then, perhaps we should discuss what really happened in the Kepler 442 system. Perhaps we should discuss why the Dravik were there at all. Regent Culver of the Dravik rose from his seat, his reptilian features twisted with rage. My people filed a legal claim to that system 6 full cycles before Earth even knew it existed. You had no right to be there. Your people filed a false claim using fraudulent data, Webb replied without raising his voice. You knew that system already contained a human research station. You knew because your intelligence operatives had been watching it for 8 months before you filed your claim. The chamber went silent. This was a new accusation, one that carried serious implications if it could be proven. "You dare accuse us of espionage?" Culver demanded. Webb reached into his jacket pocket. Instantly, weapons of every conceivable design locked onto him from around the chamber. Energy barriers sprang up. Guards materialized from hidden positions. Webb moved slowly, deliberately. He pulled out a small crystal data device and held it up where everyone could see it. "This contains everything. Every communication, every surveillance report, every plan your government made regarding the Kepler 442 system." He tossed it gently toward the center dais where Veltroth sat. The crystal floated through the air. Caught in the chamber's gravity field, Veltroth extended a hand of solidified light and caught it. "What is this?" "Proof," Webb said simply. "Proof that the Dravik knew about our research station. Proof that they planned to eliminate it and claim the system by force. Proof that they attacked first, killing 17 human scientists who were conducting peaceful research. Proof that everything they told this council was a lie." Veltroth inserted the crystal into a reader built into his seat. The data began to display on holographic screens that appeared around the chamber, visible to everyone. Dravik intelligence officers meeting in secret. Transmissions between military command and political leadership, targeting data for the human station. Orders to make the attack look accidental, but the most damning evidence was a recording of Regent Culver himself, sitting in his private chambers, speaking to his fleet commander. "The humans are weak," the recorded voice said. "They talk about peace, but they have no stomach for real war. We take the system, we pay whatever small fine the council imposes, and we gain access to the richest mineral deposits found in decades. By the time Earth complains, we will already have extraction operations running. And if they fight back," the commander asked, "then we destroy them. Our fleet has won 17 conflicts. Earth has never fought a real space war. It will teach all these newcomer species where power truly lies." The recording ended. The silence that followed was absolute. Webb watched as the reality of the situation settled over the assembled representatives. He had not come here to beg for mercy or plead humanity's case. He had come to show them the truth. "The Dravik attacked us," Webb said into the silence. "They killed our people. They did it believing we were too weak to respond, too frightened to fight back, too dependent on council protection to defend ourselves." He paused, letting his words sink in. "They were wrong about all of it, High Arbiter." Veltroth's crystalline form darkened to a deep amber as he processed the information displayed before him. The evidence was extensive, detailed, and utterly damning. Around the chamber, representatives whispered urgently to their aides and colleagues. Recalculating their positions based on this new information, Regent Culver looked like he wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. His scaled hands gripped his armrests so tightly that cracks appeared in the metal. "That recording was taken in my private chambers. Such surveillance is illegal under council law. This evidence cannot be admitted." Webb turned to face the Dravik Regent directly. "Under Council Statute 44-8-2, any communication discussing planned attacks against member species becomes admissible evidence regardless of how it was obtained. I believe your own legal team helped write that particular law after the Vorian incident 12 years ago." Several representatives made sounds that their translation devices rendered as laughter. The irony was not lost on anyone. Councillor Thex's tentacles writhed with agitation. "Ambassador Webb, while this evidence does support your claim that the Dravik acted with hostile intent, it does not excuse the totality of your response. A proportional retaliation would have been to disable their fleet, to capture their vessels, to bring them before this council for justice. Instead, you annihilated them. You left nothing behind, not even debris large enough to recover their identification codes." "You are absolutely right," Webb agreed. "We could have disabled their ships. We could have taken prisoners. We chose not to." The casual admission sent a ripple of shock through the chamber. Most species, when accused of excessive force, would try to justify it or explain it away. Webb simply acknowledged it as fact. "Why?" Veltroth demanded. "Why show such brutality? Webb took a step forward on his platform, his movement causing it to bob slightly in the gravity field. Because Earth needed to send a message. Not just to the Dravik, but to every species in this council who looks at humanity and sees what the Dravik saw. Weakness, inexperience, easy targets. He gestured toward the assembled representatives. 32 years ago, when Earth first made contact with your civilizations, we were amazed. We thought we had found our place among enlightened beings, who had moved beyond the petty conflicts that plagued our own history. We offered friendship. We offered cooperation. We shared our knowledge freely. And what did we receive in return? The holographic displays changed, showing new data, incident reports, trade disputes, territorial challenges, diplomatic slights, all of them targeting human interests. 173 documented incidents of aggression or exploitation directed at Earth in 32 years, Webb said. Everything from rigged trade agreements to sabotaged diplomatic missions. Some of you tested us, pushed us, wanted to see how much you could take before we pushed back. And we endured it because we believed in what the Council claimed to represent. Counselor Myra, of the Pelthian Commonwealth, leaned forward, her avian features sharp with interest. And now you have stopped believing? The Dravik attack did not change our beliefs, Webb replied. It simply clarified our understanding of reality. They killed 17 humans. Scientists and researchers who thought they were protected by council law. We filed formal complaints. We requested arbitration. We asked this council to intervene. Do you remember what happened? Veltrith's glow dimmed noticeably. The matter was placed under investigation, pending further review. The matter was delayed for 6 months? Webb corrected. 6 months, while the Dravik built up their military presence in that system? 6 months, while they prepared to take by force what they could not claim legally. 6 months, while more human personnel were placed at risk because this council could not or would not act. Grand Admiral Court stood up fully, his massive frame casting a shadow across several nearby representatives. So you took justice into your own hands. You decided that council law did not apply to you. We decided that council law only protects those with the power to demand that protection, Webb said. The strong species in this chamber do not wait for council approval when their interests are threatened. The Thanic's hegemony maintains military forces and systems that are nominally independent. The K'Theron Empire enforces trade policies that amount to economic conquest. The Vorian Collective has defense pacts that are really occupation agreements. You do what you need to do, and the council either approves it after the fact or looks the other way. That is different, Court growled. We are established powers. We have earned our positions through centuries through being here first, Webb interrupted. Through being strong enough that no one could tell you no. Well, Earth is strong enough now, and we are done waiting for permission to protect our own people. The holographic display changed again. This time it showed a star map of human space, with thousands of red markers appearing across it. These are human vessels and installations, Webb explained. Mining operations, research stations, colony ships, trading posts. Everything we have built over 32 years as we expanded into the galaxy. New markers appeared in blue, far outnumbering the red ones. They spread across the map like a constellation coming to life. These are defensive platforms, Webb continued. Automated systems we have placed around every human presence in council space. Each platform is equipped with the same weapons technology that destroyed the Dravik fleet. Each platform is networked to every other platform. Each platform is active and monitoring for threats right now. The chamber had gone completely silent. Even the ambient whispers had ceased. How many? Counselor Thex asked, though the question came out as barely more than a whisper. 47,362, Webb replied. 1 for every Dravik life that was lost. We built them over the 6 months while the council investigated. We installed them. We activated them. And now they are operational throughout council space. Grand Admiral Court's 4 fists clenched simultaneously. Impossible. The industrial capacity required, the distribution network, The coordination needed to deploy such a system in such a short time frame. Even my people could not accomplish this. You could not, Webb agreed. But we did. That is what you need to understand about humans. We are not the strongest species. We are not the smartest. We do not have unique biological advantages. What we have is the ability to mobilize our entire civilization toward a single goal when necessary. When we decide something must be done, we make it happen. Every obstacle becomes a problem to solve. Every impossibility becomes a challenge to overcome. He pointed at the star map. Every human in space contributed to this effort. Scientists worked around the clock developing the technology. Factory workers produced components at record rates. Pilots flew continuous missions to position the platforms. We mobilized our entire species for 6 months, and this is what we accomplished. This is madness, Regent Culver managed to say. Webb smiled without humor. This is survival. The council chamber descended into urgent discussions. Representatives huddled with their aides, calculating what this new information meant for their own positions and alliances. The balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted dramatically. Everyone knew it. High Arbiter Veltrath called for order, his crystalline form gradually returning to its normal luminescence. The Council requires time to properly deliberate on these matters. Ambassador Webb, you will remain on your platform while we discuss the implications of what you have revealed. No, Webb said quietly. Every conversation in the chamber stopped. Every eye turned to the human standing alone on his platform. Veltrath's form flickered with what might have been surprise or anger. No, you refuse a direct instruction from the High Arbiter. I have been standing on this platform for 3 hours, Webb said. I have presented our evidence. I have explained our position. I have made Earth's stance completely clear. The time for deliberation is over. This council needs to make a decision now. You do not give orders to this council, Grand Admiral, Court said, his voice dangerous. Webb pulled another device from his pocket. This time the weapons did not track him. The guards had learned he was not reaching for anything threatening. He activated the device, and a new holographic display appeared. A simple countdown timer. 2 hours and 17 minutes remaining? What is that? Counselor Myra asked, though her tone suggested she feared the answer. When I entered this chamber, Webb explained calmly, I transmitted a signal to Earth Command confirming my safe arrival. Every hour since then, I have been required to send a follow-up signal. My last transmission was 2 hours and 17 minutes ago. If Earth Command does not receive my next signal in exactly 2 hours and 17 minutes, they will assume I have been detained or harmed by the Council. The implications settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Counselor Thex's tentacles turned a dark purple. You are threatening us. If we do not release you, Earth attacks. Earth defends, Webb corrected. Every defensive platform will go to maximum alert status. Every human vessel will withdraw to protected space. Every mutual defense treaty we have signed will activate immediately. Mutual defense treaties? Veltrath's form flickered rapidly. What are you talking about? The star map changed again. New markers appeared in green, spreading far beyond human territory and touching dozens of systems throughout Council space. While the Dravik and others were testing Earth's resolve, Webb said, we were also reaching out to other species, not the powerful ones, not the ancient civilizations who dominate Council politics. We spoke with younger civilizations, species who joined the Council in the past century, species who, like us, have felt the weight of established power structures working against them. Counselor Mira's feathers stood on end. Her people, the Pelthians, had only joined 70 years ago. What exactly are you saying? I am saying that Earth is not alone, Webb replied. These green markers represent defensive platforms we have provided to our allies. 17 species have entered into mutual defense agreements with humanity. We share technology. We share resources. We share protection. Together, we represent nearly 30% of the Council's membership. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other. Accusations flew. Some species demanded explanations while others began calculating how this changed their own. Strategic positions. Veltrath struggled to restore order. This is unprecedented. You have formed a military alliance within the Council structure. This violates the spirit of it, violates nothing, Webb said firmly. We have reviewed every relevant statute and regulation. Mutual defense treaties between member species are completely legal. Technology sharing agreements are permitted as long as both parties are council members. Everything we have done falls within the boundaries of your own laws. We made certain of that. The spirit of those laws was never meant to, Counselor Dex began. The spirit of those laws has been ignored by powerful species for centuries, Webb interrupted. You maintain vassals and call them allies. You enforce economic domination and call it cooperation. You occupy systems and call it mutual defense. The only difference is that when we do it, we are honest about what it is. Grand Admiral Court had descended from his tier and now stood on the main floor, his massive form radiating barely controlled anger. You lecture us about honesty while building a secret military network throughout council space. There was nothing secret about it, Webb countered. We filed all required documentation. We informed the council of our defensive platform installations. We registered every treaty and agreement. All the information was available. You simply did not bother to. Look, because you assumed humanity was not important enough to monitor closely. That was your mistake, not ours. The countdown timer continued its relentless progress. 2 hours and 11 minutes remaining. Regent Culver found his voice again. You have not just built defenses. You have positioned yourself to disrupt the entire galactic economy. Those platforms are not just around your territory. They are along trade routes, at hyperlane junctions, near neutral stations. If they go to maximum alert and begin treating all vessels as hostile, you could cripple commerce across half the galaxy. Yes, Webb agreed simply. We could, but we will not, unless we are forced to. That is the point you all seem to be missing. Earth does not want conflict. We want peace. We want cooperation. We want exactly what we have always wanted, which is to be left alone, to grow and explore and exist without constantly defending ourselves against exploitation and aggression. He gestured to the countdown timer. This is not a threat. It is a choice I am giving you. You can acknowledge that Earth and our allies have the right to defend ourselves using whatever means we deem necessary. You can confirm our territorial claims and recognize our defensive network as legal. You can treat us as equals, rather than subordinates. Or you can try to force us back into submission, and we will show you exactly what that costs. And if we choose the latter, Veltroth asked quietly, then in 2 hours and 11 minutes, 30% of this council will be in a defensive military posture, treating all other members as potential enemies. Commerce will halt. Diplomatic relations will freeze. And you will spend years trying to untangle the mess, assuming you can do it at all without triggering actual warfare. Webb's expression remained calm, but his eyes were hard. Or you can make a decision now that lets everyone go home safely and continue working together tomorrow. Counselor Mira spoke carefully. You are asking us to legitimize everything you have done, to accept that a young species can simply declare itself a major power and demand recognition. I am not asking you to accept anything, Webb said. I am informing you of facts. Earth is a major power whether you acknowledge it or not. These platforms exist. These treaties exist. Our weapons technology exists. The only question is whether you want to work with us or against us. And I promise you, working against us will be far more expensive than you are prepared to pay. The countdown timer showed 2 hours and 8 minutes remaining. In the vast council chamber, surrounded by representatives from 700 worlds, Ambassador Marcus Webb stood alone and waited for them to choose. The silence stretched. Representatives whispered urgently with advisors. Some were making calculations on personal devices, trying to assess what Earth's defensive network really meant for their own territories and interests. Others simply stared at the countdown timer, watching the minutes tick away. Grand Admiral Court broke the silence first. His voice was measured, controlled, but everyone in the chamber could hear the anger beneath it. You have positioned yourself brilliantly, human. You have made it so that attacking you would cause collateral damage across the entire galaxy. You have ensured that any attempt to forcibly dismantle your network would harm dozens of innocent species. This is not strength. This is hostage-taking. No, Webb said. Hostage-taking requires victims who have done nothing wrong. Every platform we placed was positioned with full knowledge and cooperation of the local authorities, or in neutral space where we had every right to be. We are not holding anyone hostage. We are simply demonstrating that Earth's interests are now so thoroughly integrated, the broader galactic interests, that you cannot strike at us without striking at yourselves. You call that peace? Court demanded. I call that deterrence, Webb replied. It is the same strategy every powerful species in this chamber uses. You make yourself too valuable to attack and too dangerous to ignore. The only difference is that we accomplished in 32 years what took most of you centuries. Counselor Thex's tentacles writhed in agitation. But why? Why go to such lengths? Why not simply work within the existing power structures? Many young species have risen to prominence through patience and diplomacy. Because patience gets you killed when someone like the Dravik decides you are easy prey, Webb said bluntly. Because diplomacy only works when both sides negotiate in good faith. Because the existing power structures are designed to keep newcomers in subordinate positions for generations. He shook his head. Earth looked at how this council really functions, and we decided we would rather force our way to the table now than spend centuries begging for a chair. The countdown timer showed 1 hour and 53 minutes. Counselor Mira stood up, her wings spreading slightly in a gesture that her species used for formal address. Ambassador Webb, I need to ask you something directly. My people, the Pelthians, we are one of your 17 allies. We signed a mutual defense treaty with Earth 8 months ago. At the time, your diplomats told us it was simply a framework for cooperation. They said the defensive platforms were a precaution, nothing more. Were we deceived? Webb met her gaze steadily. No, Counselor. Everything we told you was true. The treaty is a framework for cooperation. The platforms are a precaution. What we did not tell you, because we were not yet ready to reveal it publicly, was the full extent of our preparations. But we never lied to you. And every platform we placed in Pelthian space was positioned exactly where your government approved. But you used us, Mira said. You used our territory to build your network. You used our alliance to give yourself legitimacy. We used each other, Webb corrected gently. Your government signed that treaty because the Thanix hegemony was pressuring you on 3 different border disputes. Our defensive platforms gave you the security to tell them no. We both got what we needed from the arrangement. That is how alliances work. Grand Admiral Court made a sound deep in his throat. The Pelthian situation. The Dravik were not the only ones you were planning for. The Dravik were simply the first ones to actually attack, Webb confirmed. But yes, we have been preparing for multiple scenarios. We watched how council politics operates. We identified which species tend toward aggressive expansion. We positioned ourselves to counter those tendencies where they might threaten our allies or ourselves. You have been planning this for years, Veltrith said slowly. Since the moment you joined the council, you have been working toward this. From the moment Earth made first contact with your civilizations, we began studying how galactic power really works. We learned quickly that official council law and actual council behavior are 2 very different things. So we prepared for the reality, not the fiction. The countdown showed 1 hour and 47 minutes. Regent Culver stood again, his earlier rage replaced by something that looked almost like resignation. What you did to my people. 47,000 Dravik. Was that level of destruction truly necessary? Webb was quiet for a moment before answering. Necessary? No. War is rarely necessary. It is what happens when every other option has been exhausted or ignored. Your fleet attacked our station. They killed 17 humans. They did it believing we were too weak to respond effectively. They made a calculation about risk and reward, and they decided the reward was worth the risk. He paused. They calculated wrong. But complete annihilation. You could have disabled them, captured them, brought them before this council. We could have, Webb agreed. But then what? The council would have deliberated for months. The Dravik would have paid some fine and promised not to do it again. And every other species watching would have learned that attacking humans results in delays, negotiations, and minimal consequences. That was unacceptable. So you killed 47,000 beings to make a point. We killed 47,000 beings who were actively engaged in military operations against human civilians, Webb said firmly. And yes, we did it in a way that made absolutely clear what the cost of such actions would be. The Dravik fleet was destroyed so completely that no one could claim it was an accident or a misunderstanding. We wanted every species in this council to know exactly what Earth is capable of when our people are threatened. Court spoke again, his voice thoughtful now rather than angry. You wanted us to fear you? We wanted you to respect us, Webb corrected. Fear is what the weak feel toward the strong. Respect is what equals show each other. The Dravik feared nothing because they believed themselves stronger. Now everyone knows better. The countdown showed 1 hour and 39 minutes remaining. Representatives were beginning to make decisions. Some were nodding to each other. Others were signaling their aides. The mood in the chamber was shifting from shock to calculation. Counselor Myra spoke again. If the council agrees to your terms, what guarantees do we have that Earth will not simply continue expanding its power until you dominate everything? You have the same guarantee that we have regarding any of you, Webb replied. None. Power dynamics in this galaxy have always been fluid. Species rise and fall. Alliances form and break. What you are really asking is whether Earth intends to become a threat to others, the way that Dravik became a threat to us. Yes, that is what I'm asking. Then, my answer is that Earth has no interest in conquest or domination, Webb said. We want security for ourselves and our allies. We want fair treatment in trade and diplomacy. We want our territorial claims honored and our people protected. Beyond that, we are happy to let every species govern itself however it chooses. We are not interested in building an empire. We are interested in making sure no one builds an empire over us. The countdown showed 1 hour and 33 minutes. Veltrith rose from his seat, his crystalline form now glowing bright again. The council must vote. But first, I need to know one thing, Ambassador Webb. Is that countdown real? Will Earth truly take hostile action if we do not meet your deadline? Webb smiled slightly. The countdown is real. The consequence of missing it is real. Earth Command will assume I have been detained if I do not signal them. But I should mention that the actual deadline is somewhat longer than 2 hours. The initial response would be defensive rather than offensive. This timer is somewhat dramatic for effect. Several representatives made sounds of outrage, but Court laughed. It was a deep, genuine laugh that echoed through the chamber. You manipulated us. You created artificial urgency to force a faster decision. I strategically presented information in a way that encouraged prompt resolution, Webb said, which, I should note, is something powerful species do to younger species constantly. It felt appropriate to return the favor. High Arbiter. Veltroth's crystalline form flickered rapidly, a sign of intense processing. Around the chamber, representatives were making their final calculations. The countdown timer showed 1 hour and 29 minutes. But everyone now understood it was more theater than true deadline. That understanding, paradoxically, made many of them more willing to decide quickly. Webb had demonstrated not just power, but cunning, and that combination demanded respect. Grand Admiral Court was the first to speak. The Thanix hegemony votes to accept the human terms. The announcement sent ripples of shock through the chamber. The Thanix were the single most powerful military force in Council space. If they were willing to legitimize Earth's actions, it changed everything. Court continued, his forearms crossed in a gesture of formal declaration. I have commanded fleets in 6 major wars. I know the difference between an enemy who is bluffing and an enemy who is prepared to burn everything rather than submit. The humans are not bluffing. Their defensive network exists. Their weapons technology is real. Their alliances are functional. Fighting them would cost more than any victory would be worth. He looked directly at Webb. Better to have you as partners than enemies, human. Your species is reckless and dangerous, but I respect that. The Thanix have always valued strength, and you have proven yours. The votes began to come in after that. Not unanimous, but steady. The smaller species, many of them Earth's allies, voted yes immediately. Then some of the middle powers, seeing which way the momentum was flowing. The older civilizations took longer, each one clearly wrestling with the implications of legitimizing such a rapid rise to power. Councillor Mira stood. The Pelthian Commonwealth votes to accept the human terms? Earth has been a loyal ally to us. They have honored their commitments. We see no reason to oppose their right to defend themselves and their interests. Councillor Thex's tentacles had returned to their normal color. The Vorian collective votes to accept with reservations. We believe the Council should establish new regulations regarding defensive network density and weapons technology proliferation, but we acknowledge that the human network as it currently exists is technically legal. More votes followed. The Cathron Empire voted yes after a long whispered conference between their representatives. The Horthian Alliance voted yes. The Pelgarian Sphere voted yes. One by one, the tally grew. Not everyone agreed. 17 species voted against the human terms, mostly those who were close allies of the Dravik or who had their own territorial disputes with Earth or its partners. But they were in the minority, and they knew it. When the final count was tallied, High Arbiter Veltroth announced the results. By a vote of 543 to 157, the Council accepts Earth's position. The destruction of the Dravik fleet is recognized as legitimate self-defense under Council law. Human territorial claims in the Kepler 442 system and all other disputed regions are confirmed. Earth's defensive network and technology sharing agreements are acknowledged as legal. Webb allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. Thank you, Arbiter. Earth looks forward to continuing our productive relationship with the Council. He reached for the countdown timer and deactivated it with 51 minutes remaining, though I feel I should clarify. Webb added the actual deadline was significantly longer, and the consequences of missing it were considerably less catastrophic than I implied. I may have exaggerated certain details to encourage a timely resolution. The chamber filled with various sounds of displeasure, but underneath it there was something else. A grudging acceptance. Webb had played them, but he had played fairly within the rules they had all agreed to follow. More importantly, he had demonstrated that humanity understood how council politics really worked. Veltroth S. Form flickered with what might have been amusement. Ambassador Webb, you are either the finest diplomat we have encountered or the most dangerous. Possibly both. I would prefer to think of myself as effective, Webb replied, as he stepped off his platform and began walking toward the chamber exit. Representatives from dozens of species tried to approach him. Some wanted to strengthen ties with this newly acknowledged power. Others wanted to negotiate their own technology-sharing agreements. Still others simply wanted to establish contact with someone who had just demonstrated such formidable strategic thinking. Webb handled each approach professionally, but briefly. He had accomplished what he came here to do. The rest could be handled through proper diplomatic channels before he reached the doors. Regent Culver stepped into his path. The Dravik looked diminished somehow, his scales dull and his posture defeated. My people, he said quietly, 47,000 of them. Will humanity always respond with such totality? Webb's expression softened slightly. That depends entirely on how Earth and our allies are treated. We do not seek conflict. We do not want enemies. But we will never again allow our people to die while we wait for justice that may never come. The Council had 6 months to act on our complaint. We took 18 minutes. Let that difference teach everyone the importance of prompt justice. He moved past the Regent and through the massive doors. Outside, 3 human transport ships waited. They were not warships. They carried no visible weapons. They did not need to. 47,000 automated platforms spread across the galaxy carried weapons enough for all of them. As Webb boarded his ship and it lifted away from the Council headquarters, he looked back at the enormous structure. It had stood for 10,000 years, a monument to galactic cooperation and supposedly equal justice. Today, it had learned a hard lesson about what happens when that justice is applied unevenly. The ship's pilot, a young officer named Rodriguez, glanced back at him. "How did it go, Ambassador?" "It went exactly as planned," Webb replied. "And Earth's position?" "Secured. The Council voted to recognize our rights and legitimize our defenses. We are now acknowledged as a major power," Rodriguez smiled. "Wait until people back home hear this. 32 years from first contact to major power status. That has to be some kind of record." "It is," Webb confirmed. "But it came at a cost. 47,000 lives. And the knowledge that we earned our position not through friendship or cooperation, but through demonstrated willingness to use overwhelming force. Do you regret it?" Webb was quiet for a moment. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the galaxy operates this way, where power matters more than justice and strength determines who gets heard. But I do not regret protecting human lives and interests. That is my job. That is Earth's responsibility to its people." The ship entered faster than light travel, and the Council headquarters vanished behind them. Webb settled back in his seat and began composing his report. Earth had won its place at the galactic table. Not through patience or diplomacy alone, but through strategic planning, careful alliance building, and when necessary, ruthless action. The Dravik had tested humanity and found it weak. They had been catastrophically wrong. Now the entire galaxy understood what humans had always known about themselves. They were survivors. They adapted. They overcame. And when pushed to the edge, they pushed back with everything they had. The Council would not forget this lesson anytime soon. Neither would anyone else who looked at Earth and wondered if humanity might be an easy target. The defensive platforms spread across space would serve as silent reminders. Webb had made certain of that, as the ship carried him home. He thought about those 17 scientists who had died in the Kepler 442 system. Their deaths had sparked everything that followed. In a way, they had changed the course of human history. Their names would be remembered. Their sacrifice would mean something. Earth had learned to survive in a dangerous galaxy. It had learned that Council law only protected those strong enough to demand that protection. It had learned that peace came not from hoping for the best, but from preparing for the worst. Most importantly, Earth had learned that it could stand among the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy and not just survive, but thrive. The galaxy had tried to keep humanity in a subordinate position. The galaxy had failed. Ambassador Marcus Webb closed his eyes and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. His work was done. Earth was safe. Humanity had its future secured. And the Council, for all its power and all its ancient wisdom, had learned what humans were capable of when pushed too far. They would not forget that lesson any time. Soon, Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.